Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a classic animated story. Now, it might look like a simple little fable at first glance, but it actually holds the absolute secret to unlocking how you learn, how you retain information, and specifically, how you master a language. If you've ever felt totally frustrated because you keep forgetting things you just learned, you're going to want to pay close attention to this. So let's set the scene here. Picture a lush green forest. A crow is flying overhead, scanning for a meal, when suddenly he spots this gorgeous piece of cheese just sitting on the ground. He swoops down, snatches the cheese in his beak, and, not wanting any other animals to steal his lucky prize, he flies right up to the highest, safest tree branch he can find. And he is sitting there, feeling pretty darn proud of himself. He's just up there gloating, looking at his delicious lunch, thinking about how incredibly smart he is. I found this food all by myself, he thinks. It's a great day. But down below, prowling through the forest, is a very hungry fox. He literally hasn't eaten since yesterday. He looks up, spots the crow, and far more importantly, he spots that perfect piece of cheese. The gears in the fox's head instantly start turning. Now, the fox knows his physical limits. He knows there's zero chance he can climb that massive tree, and he definitely can't jump high enough to reach the branch. So he figures, okay, I gotta be smart here. I'll use my mind. He decides to go with the absolute oldest weapon in the book, pure flattery. He saunters right up to the bottom of the tree, looks up, and begins his little performance. Putting on his absolute smoothest, softest, most persuasive voice, the fox just starts showering the crow with compliments. "Good morning, dear crow. Wow, what a beautiful bird you are," he says. He just goes on and on about the crow's shiny black feathers, telling him he's seen a lot of birds, but none are quite as spectacular as him. And up on the branch, the crow is actually starting to buy it. He's thinking, you know what? Maybe I am beautiful. But crucially, he's keeping his beak firmly shut, holding onto that cheese. So the fox pivots and takes it a step further. "With looks like that," the fox says, "I am sure your voice is absolutely incredible too. People say you have a wonderful voice. Please sing a song for me." Well, that does it. The crow is so excited to show off his supposedly gorgeous voice that he completely forgets about his lunch. He throws his head back, opens his beaks to sing, and boom, down drops his meal right into the waiting mouth of the fox. The fox calmly snatches up the cheese, looks up at the totally humiliated crow, and drops this brutal but brilliant piece of advice. Don't trust people who only praise you. Sometimes they have an agenda. Kind words are not always honest words. And with that, he just trots away, leaving the foolish crow to reflect on his giant mistake. All right, story time is over. Now, at this point, you're probably sitting there thinking, okay, I get it. I understood the narrative. I followed the plot. I picked up the vocabulary. Let's move on. Well, hold on a second, because that right there is the exact trap that catches so many learners. Here is the deal. Simply understanding a story or a concept one single time is great, but it's a complete illusion to think you've mastered it. Understanding something once does not equal true learning. The real magic, the actual permanent retention of that vocabulary, only kicks in when you return to the material. One meeting is just never enough. And that leads us perfectly into our core topic for today, the real power of repetition. I know the word repetition probably brings up some terrible memories of dry, exhausting study sessions, just reading the same boring flashcards over and over. But listen to me, it is not the enemy. In fact, if you actually want to remember words easily and speak with total confidence, repetition is literally the most powerful tool in your entire arsenal. We just have to use it the right way. It's definitely not about mindlessly repeating everything you see. So, step one is figuring out exactly what we should be focusing on. We have to choose the right phrases to repeat. Spending hours memorizing massive lists of rare, random words you're never going to use is a huge waste of your time. If you do that, yeah, repetition is going to feel like torture. Instead, you want to hunt for high-value targets. That means taking understandable input, like the fun little fable we just went through, and extracting the good stuff. We're looking for high-frequency words, useful chunks of language, natural grammar contexts, and the actual rhythm of the pronunciation. Let's look at a really concrete example. Think back to the crow gloating in that tree. He thought, I found this food all by myself. Now, instead of memorizing the word all, and then by, and then myself, you extract that entire phrase. Repeating a whole chunk like all by myself helps you actually speak naturally without stressing over the grammar of every single word. It builds instant fluency. And this perfectly highlights why we lean so heavily into high-frequency words. Just look at this list. Still, enough, almost, maybe, around, instead. Sure, they might seem like tiny, boring words, but they are the absolute glue of the language. They're everywhere. Mastering these through repetition is going to supercharge your daily communication way more than learning some complicated, obscure word you'll use maybe once a year. Here's what's so incredibly cool about this process. When you intentionally repeat easy, understandable material, you actually peel back a new layer of learning every single time. Past number 1, you're just getting the main idea. But past 2, your brain starts picking out key words. Past 3, you really start to feel the rhythm and the sounds. And by past 4, you genuinely feel totally confident and comfortable with it. But knowing what to repeat is really only half the puzzle. We also have to talk about the timing required to truly hack your memory. Because this is where almost everybody messes up. It's what we call the one and done mistake. You learn 10 new words, you drill them 5 times in a furious 10-minute cram session, and you feel like an absolute genius. It feels like such huge progress. But then you abandon them entirely. And because you never go back, your brain literally throws that information in the trash, pretty much guaranteeing you'll forget it in a few days. We have to avoid this trap. So check out this timeline instead. This is the exact calendar your brain actually requires to permanently cement memory through spaced repetition. You can't just cram it all into one sitting. You need a meeting soon after you learn it, another one after a short gap, and then more check-ins over a longer stretch of time. Let's break down exactly why this is so scientifically vital. First up is the immediate return. By reviewing a new phrase soon after you first encounter it, like maybe later that exact same day, you're doing something incredibly important. You're sending a massive signal to your brain. You're basically saying, hey, this wasn't just a random passing thought. This actually matters. Don't throw this away. That second meeting actively protects the fresh memory from fading out. Next, we've got the short gap. Waiting a day or two for your next review is where the actual heavy lifting happens. By letting a little bit of time pass, you are actively forcing your brain to work just a tiny bit harder to dig up that phrase. It might feel a little fuzzy at first, and that is exactly what we want. That mental sweat, that active effort to recall the memory, is where real, rock-solid retention is built. Finally, you have the long-term return. Coming back to the material weeks or even a month later is what gives the language deep, permanent roots. A word or phrase only becomes truly yours when it comes back again and again over a long stretch of time. Because real learning isn't about what you can memorize on a random Tuesday afternoon. It's about how you manage your relationship with that information over weeks and months. That's how you cement it. And none of this works if you aren't doing active, meaningful repetition. Don't just be a zombie reading flashcards. Actively engage with the meaning at these exact intervals. We saw how the crow totally lost his prize because he got easily distracted by a cheap trick. Well, don't let yourself get distracted by the illusion that reading something once means you've learned it. You now have the exact blueprint for building permanent memory. Grab high-value chunks of language and space them out over time. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought. What piece of understandable, meaningful language are you going to start actively repeating today?